Knock on the Saints door. Quarterback sneak by Tom Brady to the 43-year-old score. He did. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Now spike that ball, Tom Brady. Who says I'm 43? He runs right up the gut and scores 6. 7. Handoff, run the ball. Fournette slashes away to the 40, to the 35, to the 30, to the 30, 25, to the 20. Fournette to the 10, 5, 3, 2, 1. Touchdown, Tampa Bay. Run the ball, Leonard Fournette. Wow, what a blast up the gut, found daylight, and outran everybody. Fire the cannons, get them going. Bucs win. Bucs win, Bucs win. Fire them cannons.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Swords Up Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about our Week 11 matchup, Monday Night Football, which is our last primetime matchup of the year, unless we get flexed into another primetime game later in the season to make up for that Sunday night game we lost because of the Raiders' COVID issues back when we played them. But nonetheless, this is a really important matchup for us this week against the Rams on Monday Night Football. And today I'm going to be talking about the key players from the game and then also giving a prediction at the end of it. Alright, so starting out with the injury report on the Buccaneers side of things, the only player ruled out for us so far is going to be tight end Tanner Hudson. And then Ali Marpet is in danger of missing his third straight game. He's going to be doubtful, still dealing with concussion symptoms, and that would be a pretty big loss if we were to lose him this week. He's going to be listed as doubtful. And then the only player on the Rams who has an injury designation coming into this game is going to be offensive lineman Brian Allen, who is their backup center. He's going to be doubtful with the knee injury. All right, so now getting into the key players from both sides and starting out with the Rams. Who else can I highlight other than Aaron Donald? He is one of the best defensive players in the game, if not the best, and he is on pace to have a defensive player of the year type season once again. And so far this season, he has 26 total tackles, 7 for a loss, 9 sacks, which is tied for second in the league, 17 QB hits, 3 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery. And what's impressive is he has all these sacks from an interior defensive line position. Usually the guys that get most of the sacks are the outside guys, but Aaron Donald is not only really good against the run game, but he's also a great pass rusher. And that's why he's one of the elite players in the league, because he can pretty much do everything. He can also take on double team blocks really well. So what concerns me in this one is that if Ali Marpet's going to be out, it'll probably be Ryan Jensen starting at left guard and then A.Q. Shipley at center again, like we did last week against the Panthers. And while that worked out really well, it's going to be up to them to stop Aaron Donald. And so it's going to be an important matchup to see how that battle turns out. But on the Buccaneers side of things, I'm going to be highlighting Ronald Jones as our key player, because I think what we're going to need to do to win this game is have a strong running game like we did last week. And I'll get into why that I think that's going to be the case in a bit. But so far this season, Ronald Jones has already had his best statistical season. I think he's had a really underrated season so far. And in my opinion, he's been a Pro Bowl caliber player this year. And so far rushing, he's had 143 carries for 730 yards, which is third in the NFL, averaging 5.1 yards per carry and 5 touchdowns. And then receiving, he has 26 catches for 124 yards. And I mentioned this in the last video that I think Ronald Jones has really taken over as being our top back on the team. Obviously, Leonard Fournette's going to be more involved, but earlier in the season, you would see a rotation of Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, and LaShawn McCoy, and then Keyshawn Vaughn when Leonard Fournette and LaShawn McCoy were out. But now it's really only been Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette that have been getting playing time, with Ronald Jones getting most of the work, and then Leonard Fournette sometimes coming in on third downs. And of course, we're going to need Ronald Jones to perform once again. And coming off a career performance like he did last week, I think he will be up to the task, as I mentioned. So we'll see what he can do this week coming off of last week's performance, in which he had 23 carries for 192 yards, averaging 8.3 yards per carry and 1 touchdown. I think he's going to be a really important player on the offensive side of things for us this week. All right, so this is going to be a really interesting matchup because both of these teams have really elite defenses. The Rams are second ranked defensively. The Buccaneers are third, and this is in total defense. The Buccaneers, of course, also have the number 1 rush defense in the NFL, while the Rams have the 5th ranked rushing defense. And then the Rams have the 3rd ranked passing defense, while the Buccaneers are a top 10 unit as well, ranked 9th. So obviously these are two of the best defenses in the league playing in this game right now. The Buccaneers, really, people have started to realize how good of a defense they are. The Rams defense has actually been pretty underrated this year, and they've had standout players all over the field. Obviously, the big names in Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, but then also they have Darius Williams, who's been really underrated, and also Leonard Floyd, who had 3 sacks last week against the Seahawks. So I think this is going to be a really interesting battle to see how this goes. With these elite defenses, it's going to be up to see whichever offense is going to be more comfortable in this game. So I think the pass rushes are going to be important. So which team can get more pressure on the quarterback? And Jared Goff doesn't really play well when he's under pressure. So if we can get pressure on him, I think we will be just fine. And then it's going to be up to our offensive line containing Aaron Donald. Obviously, Ali Marpet being listed as doubtful, he's most likely going to be out, is going to be a big loss for us if he ends up missing this game. Probably this will be the most important game that he has missed during this stretch with the concussion symptoms keeping him out. So it's going to be up to Ryan Jensen and AQ Shipley to see what we can do against Aaron Donald, as those guys are probably going to be the ones that match up against him. And honestly, looking at it as a whole, I think this game is going to be a toss-up. It really could go either way. Both teams are playing really well right now, and for both, it's going to be a really important game, especially with playoff seeding in the NFC. And with the Buccaneers, this game is going to be huge because it's going to be a chance for them to make up some ground in the division, because the Saints are going to be without Drew Brees for at least 3 weeks with those rib injuries. He's been placed on IR, so he's going to be out for a minimum of 3 weeks. So if the Saints end up losing ground because they don't have Drew Brees, it's going to be a chance for the Buccaneers to make up ground in the division. And I know after this we have the Chiefs coming up, which is going to be our toughest test this season. So I think the Buccaneers are going to come out against this Rams team. Even though we have struggled in primetime games this year, I think the Buccaneers are going to come out hungry and show that they are a real contender, when sometimes they look like one of the best teams in the league, and then other games they will fall flat on their faces and look pretty terrible. But I think this game will prove that the Buccaneers are going to be ready to hit their late season stride and make their way into the playoffs on a high note, hopefully following a really good end of the season. Because like I keep mentioning, after these 2 games is our bye week, and then the schedule lightens up with us playing the Vikings, the Falcons twice, and the Lions. These next 2 games are probably going to be our most important so far. So I just don't see the Buccaneers losing this one, although I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams win, because Aaron Donald could wreck the game completely with Marpet being out, and we could face a lot of pressure, which could lead to a really ugly performance offensively from Tom Brady, as we saw against the Saints when he faced a lot of pressure against them. But I think we'll contain Aaron Donald enough to where Tom Brady will at least be able to make some plays. And then we need to also rely on the running game more, like I said, with Ronald Jones, so that we can be prevented from being in those situations where Tom Brady does face a lot of pressure. So with all that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams do end up winning this game, but I think I'm going to predict the Buccaneers win in this one by a score of 28-20. All right, so that is it for the preview to this week's game. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. By the time you're seeing this, the Week 11 Sunday matchups will have been played. So I hope you guys enjoyed this week's slate of games and the Monday Night Football matchup that's coming up with these 2 teams. But thank you for watching, and go Bucs.